Today, I'm taking on sesame chicken. Is this recipe gonna be a delicious, easy win, or a sweet and sticky headache that empties our wallets? I've never made this dish before, so I'm diving into the Leung sisters' Walks of Life cookbook to guide me through the process. I'll be rating this recipe on two fronts, taste and my personal PETA scale, for everything from ingredients and cleanup to time and instructions. Let's find out if the juice is worth the squeeze so you don't have to. 1 pound of boneless, skinless chicken thighs, Shaoxing wine, sea salt, toasted sesame oil, white pepper powder, MSG in a very old jalapeno jar, garlic and onion powder, cornstarch, all-purpose flour, oil, baking soda, chicken stock, but I'll use vegetable stock, sugar, oyster sauce, honey, soy sauce, rice vinegar, sesame seeds. So many ingredients, but I see these as all fairly common ingredients that you can use in countless recipes. And look at this, I forgot about garlic. Important to get organized. It's easy to miss something, especially with this many ingredients in this recipe. I'll start by mincing 1 clove of garlic so I can fry this in a wok later for the sauce. This looks good, so onto my mise en place tray. Chicken thigh time. The recipe says 1-inch pieces, so I'm trying to decide on the best way to cut these. I'll square off any funky bits, I think cut down the middle, and then split each of those strips into thirds for consistency. My thighs are done, so I can marinate these early to let that marinade penetrate the surface a bit and infuse flavor. Now onto the chicken, I'm gonna add half a teaspoon of sea salt, 1/4 of a teaspoon white pepper powder, 1/4 of a teaspoon MSG, and that's optional of course, 1/8 teaspoon of both garlic and onion powder, 1 teaspoon of Shaoxing wine, half a teaspoon of sesame oil. I'll mix these thighs up thoroughly in the marinade so those flavors can penetrate the surface level of my chicken. This should marinate for at least 30 minutes so that can happen. Thighs marinated, so onto the mise en place tray. I'll get my batter ready so I can get these bags of flour and starch out of the way. 6 tablespoons of cornstarch, so 1/4 cup plus 2 tablespoons. 3 tablespoons of all-purpose flour. 6 tablespoons of water. 1 tablespoon of oil. And half a teaspoon baking soda. I'll grab my whisk so I can, oops, that cornstarch has already begun to solidify into a mass at the bottom, so I had to use some strength there. I'll whisk this batter so all of those ingredients come together nicely. The baking soda here is interesting to me and something I had to research on why is it in this recipe. It should lower pH and help the Maillard reaction create a golden brown color on the chicken when I fry it. Time to get saucy. I'll start with 3/4 cups of vegetable stock, 3 tablespoons of sugar, 1.5 tablespoons of oyster sauce. This is a staple of Asian cuisine and something you should have in your pantry. 1 tablespoon of honey, 1 tablespoon of Shaoxing wine. You could just use clear rice wine here, but I forgot to get some more rice wine, so Shaoxing will do. 1 tablespoon of soy sauce, 1.5 teaspoons of rice vinegar, balancing out all that sweet and salty flavors I've been adding. 1.5 teaspoons of sesame oil. This is an intense oil, so this should be plenty. 1/8 teaspoon of white pepper, and 2 teaspoons of cornstarch, but I wasn't supposed to add this to the sauce, so I'll quickly grab a cup and fish that chunk of cornstarch out. This cornstarch is for a slurry I'll use to thicken the sauce after it's hot. 1 tablespoon of water mixed into that cornstarch to create the slurry. And I'll whisk that sauce up so all of those ingredients can combine. Cornstarch and sauce are ready and onto the mise tray. So pan on a low heat to toast the white sesame seeds for garnish. Low and slow to bring out their oils and flavor. Quick toast, then straight onto the mise tray. And we're done. All the mise en place looks good. Really, it was a lot of ingredients, but very easy to prepare. And it's batter time. The longer cornstarch sits in a batter form, the better of a crust it should form when that cornstarch starts to gelatinize when it hits hot oil. Deep frying pan onto a medium heat. Oil is expensive these days, so I'm using some oil I saved from earlier this week. And I'll top this off with a bit more so I reach a little over halfway in my pan. I'll fight to get my thermometer on here so I can keep an eye on my oil temperature. It should be at 335 Fahrenheit or 170 degrees Celsius. Oil is hot, so it's time to go in with the chicken. The recipe says I'll need to do this in 3 different batches, but we'll see about that. I'll do my best to get this into the fryer in individual pieces, but the batter is quite sticky, so the chicken is clinging to each other and my tongs. Using my tongs, I'll keep the chicken pieces separated early in the cooking so the chicken batter doesn't gelatinize into large chunks instead of individual bite-sized pieces. Once in the oil, these are going to fry for 5 to 6 minutes, and what's going to happen is that inside is going to be completely cooked, but we're going to come in later with a second fry. These are looking nice, not too golden yet, and my oil maintained a good temperature. Time for the second batch. But I was confident that my deep frying pan is maintaining such a good temperature, so I'm wondering if I can skip the third batch and just do 2 batches. And I was very wrong. You can see my temperature has dropped 30 degrees quite quickly. So I'll crank up my heat and keep an eye on these. As you can see, they've begun to clump together more than in the first batch because the pan is just overcrowded now. So I should have listened to the recipe, at least for this first fry. It's taken a little bit longer, but I think these are cooked on the inside without getting too dark on the outside. The lower temperature fry might not have been as much of an issue as I thought it would be. Time to pull these out. The oil is back up to 335 quickly, and the first batch has rested for about 10 minutes. So now I'm going to go back into the oil for a second fry, which will really lock in that crisp crunch I want. During the 10 minutes that the chicken sits on the first fry, the moisture on the inside of the chicken piece leaches out into the exterior, which over time would lead to this not being so crispy. The second fry is shorter, but it's going to eliminate that excess moisture from the crust and crisp up the outside of this chicken, which will stay crispy for an amazing amount of time. And side by side, you can see the color difference here for what the finished product should look like. Third batch, same thing. This all goes really quickly at the end because the oil is just staying hot and not losing its temperature so much. And I've got all my finished chicken together to sit and drain while I prepare that sesame sauce. Time to get saucy. So I'll get my wok onto my burner and get this up to a medium heat. I'll add a couple teaspoons of the oil, and then I add my garlic. Right away, I think this isn't hot enough. The garlic should only take 5 to 10 seconds, but I'm a little bit cool here, so it's slightly longer. And I'll add my sauce to the pan, and this reduces the heat of the wok so much that I don't think this was supposed to happen. I think this sauce liquid, when added to the hot wok, should almost evaporate a bit on contact, and that doesn't happen. Well, the sauce is finally simmering, so I'll stir my slurry here into the sauce nice and slow so that I can thicken this up to a thick consistency to coat the chicken with that sweet, sticky sauce. The recipe from the book said 10 to 20 seconds before needing to add the chicken after the slurry, and mine has been almost a minute. So I really second-guessed my decision to continue to reduce the sauce here before adding my chicken. I was starting to think that maybe the sauce was going to get much thicker once it cooled. And I add the fried chicken into the sauce so I can toss these pieces and get them completely coated. As I'm mixing this up, I just feel right away this is a mistake. Something with this sauce wasn't correct. Either the wok wasn't hot enough, not enough slurry, or I really needed to crank that heat and reduce. Either way, it's too late now, gotta make it work. I'll pull the chicken out and plate up. And I have plans to reduce this sauce further without the chicken inside the wok so this liquid doesn't degrade my chicken's crust. Garnishing with sesame seeds, and then I'll drizzle that reduced sauce over the top for a final touch. This will be a wet nap job, spoon and chopsticks, and an additional bowl for white rice. Despite my concerns about the sauce, this looks great. First bite, I'm really happy. And I definitely want some white rice to go with this since it's so sweet. The chicken is still nice and crispy. The sauce itself has a great sesame flavor and just really hits the spot for Chinese takeout. And I'm alone for this tasting today, so I'll have to see what Gus here thinks before I give my taste rating. And I think he likes it, and so do I. Taste rating, solid 8 out of 10. Next time I'd cut out a tablespoon of sugar, but this is still really good. Pita rating, 7 out of 10. Fried recipes always get docked a bit, and with this many ingredients, I have to take a point. Plus, those sauce instructions feel a little bit off. Is it worth it? Absolutely. Give this a try.